Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to some people. My name is Jeff Eels, and I head up business development here at Layer. Number one, I want to thank you for sharing your time. I know with everything going on and everything craziness, making some time to share with me is a huge deal. So I want to thank you very much. The reason we're here, is to how we start to harvest really rich Revit data to your non-Revit users. As we go through this, we're going to talk a little bit about Layer. We'll talk a little bit about Revit. We'll bounce in between the two programs and show how the two programs talk. The vast majority of our firms see the value in Layer by being able to connect Revit data to non-Revit users. So those people who just don't want to open up a model, who don't have access to Revit, now have the information at their fingertips in a seamless, easy-to-use platform. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. So I'm going to pull up my Revit model first. Now, to begin with, we are based here in Lincoln, Nebraska. My partner, Zach Soflin, is actually a registered architect. So our parent company, BVH Architecture, got awarded a large project last year for the Nebraska State Capitol. Basically, what it was some historic preservation along with some HVAC work. Well, Zach and his team had to go over and document, I believe it was 1,300 rooms, 1,100 windows, 57 data points per room, and they were doing it with a clipboard and a camera. So very quickly, Zach realized, like, listen, we've got all this great data, but it's all over the place. It's in my phone. It's on an Excel spreadsheet. It's on a clipboard. And at the end of the day, it's not connected to the tools we actually use to design, which in this case is Revit. So we'll start here. So to be completely honest, I'm somewhat new to the industry. I've been in startups for the last 20 years or so. When I first looked at Revit, this has got to be one of the most confusing, complicated programs I have ever seen. I have no idea how gorgeous buildings get built in this, but end of my rant. So what we're going to do to start this whole process off is Layer is a simple add-in to Revit. So we would simply do the plugin. We're going to go over here to attach a model. Now, what this will do is bring up every element that you have within your model. It will also give you the counts of the elements within your model as well. So anything from areas to doors to ducts to furniture, any type of Revit parameters or elements can now be linked directly to Layer to harvest that information out of Revit and into Layer to then not only have access, but then to start add additional information to the Revit data as well. So I have things like furniture, I've got rooms, I've got security equipment, lighting fixtures, and again, down the room, security, specialty equipment, whatever you want to sync up. Now, I already have this model attached, so I'm not going to attach it already. So right now, we have the model attached to Layer. So let's dive over into Layer. So what we're going to do right now is we're simply looking at the project dashboard for all my projects associated with my email address. A couple things to keep in mind as we move forward. Number one, Layer is extremely flexible. We know that every firm works differently. Probably every project manager within that firm works differently. So our hope is we're able to customize the Layer experience around your specific workflows and around the problem you're trying to solve. So in my Revit model, I had my example project pulled up. I am now going to go down and find my example project here in Layer. And now you're seeing my dashboard specific to the example project that we just looked at in Revit. So we'll start over here on the left-hand side with the categories. Now, categories can be any kind of data that you want to collect and organize. Now, it can be tangible items like windows or furniture or doors, or it can be intangible items like a punch list or red lines. The most important thing to note here is that when you see this little Revit R by the category, again, that means there's a one-to-one connection between your Revit model and Layer. Simply said, anytime a change is made in Revit, let's say you change a wall that affects the square footage of 4 different rooms. Well, when that's done in Revit, it will automatically be then uploaded to Layer, and that the information will be accessible by all. So again, one person pushing the information out from Revit everyone having access within layer. So we'll start with my rooms category here, and again, connected to Revit. So all these rooms came directly from my model. This is just a running catalog of all my rooms. I'll go down and search for my 223 here. All right, now here's where we're going to start to add contextual data to the actual Revit model and the elements. So over here on the right-hand side is what we call our contextual data. So fields, files, notes, tasks, and activities. So we'll start with the fields. Now the fields are meant to collect the information you care about, specific to Lounge 223. So the way I have these fields set up right now is almost like a facility audit. So I've got existing condition photos, deficiency photos, I've got square footage of rooms. We now have a tool called formulas, which will allow you to do any kind of Excel formula now directly within layer. I have firms across the country that spend numerous amount of hours in Excel and then only to transfer the information somewhere else. Well, now within here, we're able to do the same Excel documents or the same Excel formulas directly in the layer platform. So for example, I've got a room condition rating that I have. So every room condition rating is associated with a dollar amount. So if I hit poor and I hit accept, you're going to see my estimated repair cost then reflects the poor condition. And we have some clients over in the UK, and this is why it's in pounds right now, so my apologies. As we move down, we have things like related items field. This will be an important one because this will allow us to link multiple categories into one field. So aggregating data from different categories onto one field. So things like this, I can see, oh, there's a punch list issue in Lounge 223. I can see in a minute, I'll show you how to annotate a PDF directly within layer and then reference that annotation as well. I can see I have security devices in here. I can go through, manipulate the quantities that I have in there as well. I can see what furniture I might have in there or AV equipment and the cost of that AV. Then I move to things like metadata. So who was the last person that updated data? When was the last time it was updated? Here, we're starting to pull through our Revit parameters directly from our model, so everyone has access to these Revit parameters now. The last thing we'll talk about is very quickly, if I'm on a facility audit and I've got base materials, very quickly, I can move through the audit and start making the necessary changes. Now, again, the nice thing about layer is that these are all customizable, so we can get these to exactly what you're looking for with your specific workflow. So if I click on the add button down here, this will now give us 23 ground level tools that enable you to start building out the fields on the right-hand side. So things like barcode readers. We have a lot of clients that are using this specifically for either facility maintenance, for preventative maintenance, for asset tagging. We have FF&E clients using this for asset tagging, asset management, inventory. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate the barcode into your workflow. Again, Revit parameters being displayed directly from your model. Formula fields gives us the Excel capability. The lookup field gives us the ability to aggregate those categories into one data. So if we were to select just one input, I'm going to save that field. I am now going to come to the bottom, and now as you can see, it's automatically updated in my field. So the nice thing is, once this field is set up for Lounge 223, it then gets deployed across every other room in your category. Simply said, you don't have to recreate the wheel each and every time that you're trying to get something done for Lounge 223. Once that's set, it's deployed across every category. You can go a step further and actually save these templates to a firm library and then redeploy these fields as projects come available. Let's go to files. So I want you to think of file types as any kind of file type. So whether it be a DWG, a PDF, a drawing set, we have the capability to manipulate and upload those directly into layer. I've even got clients in the Midwest here that use drones for survey purposes. They'll come back, upload that footage directly into layer, and very quickly they realize how layer becomes a central source of truth for everything in their project. Now, the nice thing is we are mobile capable, so iOS, Android, it doesn't matter what kind of phone or tablet, we have an app. Now, what we can do, we have the mobile capability to start uploading these files. So I am dialed in to Lounge 223 on my app. I'm going to click on Add a File. It's going to automatically pull up my camera for me. When I click on Use Photo, you're going to see that photo then gets categorized directly into Lounge 223. So I'm not coming back off-site and then having to download the pictures from my phone or having to sort and sift where those need to be. As soon as that picture is taken, it's automatically tagged to exactly where it needs to go. I can then go a step further. I can pull that picture up. This happens to be my lovely home office here. I've got a full suite of markup tools. I can start to incorporate on these as well. I can leave any kind of notes, text. I have a full log of all my notes. And the nice thing is, this is all done in real time. So you can have a GC out in the field. She can take a picture, start making the annotations. You can be in the office, seeing everything in real time as it comes through to hopefully facilitate having the conversation about the right thing at the right time without all the emails and text messages going back and forth. Next thing we'll touch on right now is notes, somewhat self-explanatory. We're either in the office or on site taking notes. We can take notes, and again, it will now be specifically tagged to Lounge 223. Tasks, we've created all of our data, we've got our pictures, and we've got our notes. Now it's time to start tasking people out. So what we can do is create a task. We can then create a due date. Oops. We can create a due date. We can create a person to invite to as well. So whether it be a team member and a due date. When I hit submit task, the nice thing is I'm just going to get an in-app notification saying that I've been mentioned within Layer. As soon as I open that up, it takes me to exactly where I need to be within the app, and I go ahead and click those off as I need. Last thing we'll touch on real quick is just the idea of an activity log. It's amazing how many people are involved with your project and how many changes come down the pipe each and every day. With the idea of the activity log, we're given the ability to see who did what when, and if we need to reset those values, we can do that as well. So this will give you the activity specific to Lounge 223, or we have an activity log for everything in your project to give you a really deep dive into exactly what's going on in your project. The other nice thing about the ability about the Layer software is we want to be able to customize these looks and get the view that you want. With this, we can now start to pull different data points from our fields and display these right on my cards. So very quickly, I can go through and see that square footage, security devices. I've got a security channel in admin 126. So again, we want to give you the ultimate control over what data you see. You can also sort different elements. You can filter different elements. And now the nice thing is you can create a view for this as well. So you can create a gallery view, which we have right now. We can create a table view, which is more of a Excel spreadsheet type view. Or the other nice thing we can do is actually a drawing view. So a drawing view will allow us to upload a PDF directly within Layer. What we can do is now start to layer reference or layer links directly on this PDF. So I have markup tools, a dot, a cloud, a polygon, a rectangle. I can go down to add a link. I'm going to click that reference. And now it automatically creates my punch list or my issue. I can go through, assign it out. I can set a status. Any pictures that I need, I can associate. I can now associate a specific room, which ties back to Revit. I've got my drawing reference here. And maybe I have a common issue that I can just say, hey, listen, need some more paint. With that, now I have all the information. If I were to go into room, admin 126, and I were to look down and see, okay, I've got these punch list issues associated with 126. I want to see what this punch list is. Now it will automatically bring you to that PDF view or that drawing set, show you where that annotation is, and give you all the information that you've collected. So imagine the power of this, doing a punch list or doing a walkthrough, being able to drop those annotations all in real time, having someone out in the field, getting those as they come through and knocking these out very quickly. With that, let me dive into my Revit model, and we'll show how the two kind of talk back and forth. So again, we have my example project loaded. I'm going to pull up my layer dashboard. Now, what this gives me the ability to do is have all the information that I've collected within layer now directly at my fingertips within Revit. As I click around my model, you're going to see my dashboard on the right-hand side, again, navigates directly to where I am in my model. So no matter where I go, now I have access to my fields. I've got access to my pictures. Let's say, okay, I've got a desktop or a desktop computer. I've got motion detectors. Let's go ahead and check on that desktop computer. Now I've got my make. I've got my model. I've got a cut sheet available right here. So imagine the speed you'll pick up, not digging through all these ancillary channels to find the information, as opposed to having everything at your fingertips directly in your model. Now, there's a couple different ways we can push both information from Revit over to layer and layer over to Revit. The first one would be the idea of the layer reference point. So I typically use this for things like common issues or coordination issues. What this will do, just a punch list, is now give me a digital annotation I can drop directly in my Revit model that will then have the same connectivity back to layer. So now, instead of dropping this on a PDF, I can drop the annotation in a Revit model, have the GC out in the field, she gets notified, be able to pull the information up in layer and have access to the data without ever having to open up a model. The other nice thing is these sync parameters. So again, if you remember, in my Lounge 223, I had some base materials loaded up, and I went through and changed. So again, I went from ACT, let's go to JIP, and wall material will go to JIP as well. All right, so let's go back in my Revit model. When I hit the sync parameters, what this will do is say, okay, Jeff, you were just in Lounge 223. Here are the changes that you made. When I hit save and accept those two changes, that will then be automatically swept from layer over to your Revit model. So instead of doing the one-to-one update within your Revit model from JIP over to plaster, what you're able to do is very quickly in the field, get that done in layer, push those sync over to Revit. You also have complete control who can sync and who can't sync. We know people get very protective of their models, and I completely understand that. Now, the last thing I want to show you here is the idea of elements. The idea of link elements gives us the opportunity to add a layer element in layer and then push it over to Revit. My best case scenario here is if I'm out on site and I find a storage closet I didn't know that in my Revit model. This will bring up and say, all right, Jeff, here are all the rooms you have in layer that are not yet represented within your Revit model. When I hit link elements, I can then reposition that element wherever I need to within my Revit model. So again, a couple different ways we can now start to push information from layer over to Revit. But the most important thing is to have all this information and all this access available without ever having to touch a model and be able to push out all that great data out to your non-Revit users. A couple quick housekeeping things. If we go down here to our files, we just have a running list of all our files, notes, tasks, and activities for the entire project. With the reporting functionality, we've really put a lot of emphasis to make sure you can customize the report and get the data you're looking for very quickly. With the report feature, we're able to come through and report on different categories. We can report on elements within those categories. And then we have three different outputs. We have a PDF, an Excel, or a CSV, and you can either include the notes or not include the notes as well. I actually just ran a rooms report here. So this is a very simple room report that I pulled, listing out the categories, elements, my room photos that I can reference right here as well, and all the other ancillary data. So again, a very quick way to get that, whether it be formatted for internal use or for external use. Last thing we'll talk about here is the idea of how do we start to invite people to our projects. So two different ways. First of all, we're going to have an internal company list. So these are just all the internal team members that have the ability to be brought onto a project. You have different levels of permission. So whether it be a contributor, which means they can add data, editor means they can add data plus manipulate the fields. A viewer is a look but don't touch. The other idea is the collaborators. The collaborators gives you the opportunity to invite your outside key stakeholders to the project, and they have all the same capabilities. You can give them the same level of permission. When you hit their email address and they accept that project, that becomes a free seat for your collaborator. We know the true power of Layer comes from the fact that you want to have all key stakeholders on your project with access to the data for everyone. With the idea of the collaborators, we lower that bar of entry and make sure you truly have everyone you need on the project. Last thing we'll talk about here is pricing. So we are a young organization. We try to be as aggressive as we can with the pricing, different tiers. Just like any other SaaS-based organization, we're a per month, per seat charge. A couple things to point out here: unlimited projects, elements, storage, a full year of revision history with that $59 seat, meaning that you have a full year. As soon as I make a change, that clock starts, so you have full visibility to a full year of your project. And then the idea of those project collaborators as well, whether it be a 5 or 10 project collaborators, to make sure you can get all your outside key stakeholders on the project as well. With that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm see if there's a couple more people. If you want to send those questions either through here, I will go ahead and send a link out for this webinar as well. I'll put my contact information in there. I'll put some other webinars in there specific to Layer, whether it be for FF&E, medical planning. There's a lot of different workflows that we can incorporate into Layer. I'll be on the line for another couple minutes if you'd like to answer any more questions. If not, again, thank you so much for sharing your time. I will follow up with an email after this. And if you'd like to take more of a deep dive, let me know. I'd love to continue the conversation. Thank you.